All right, so suppose I had this. Suppose I asked you to solve, let's say, x plus 8 equal 2. Now, obviously, that's the easiest kind you can ever solve, right? You wish you had all that on the test. So, so first of all, what kind of equation is this? Linear. All right, and what'd you do when you solve this linear equation? All right, you isolate the variable x and you subtract 8 from both sides, right? And so we get the solution to be -6. All right, now what if I had this? So this is new. What if I had this equation? Now what kind of equation is this? Absolute value. Now, don't confuse absolute value with an equation that's not absolute value. These almost look identical, so it does confuse students. They want to take this and say, well, then it's just this, and that's the answer. It's not quite true. That's not quite true. So the first one we did was a linear equation. This is an absolute value equation. Now let's review something with regards to absolute value. What is the absolute value of 3? 3. What is the absolute value of -3? 3. So remember, the absolute value, one of the things that you learned was the absolute value of a number is the distance that number is from 0. So if we look at 3 on the number line, then 3 is 3 units from 0. If I look at -3, -3 is also 3 units from 0, right?
Absolute value is always positive.
Unless it's 0. The absolute value of 0 is just 0. 0 is neither positive nor negative. So you got to think of absolute value as that distance that it is from 0. Okay? So let's start with a simple example, and then we'll come back to this one. Suppose I asked you to solve the absolute value of x equal, let's say, 3. The absolute value of x equal 3. So the absolute value of what number is 3? What do you think x would have to be? 3. The absolute value of 3 is 3. What else? -3. So when I solve this solution, this equation, notice that this linear equation had how many solutions? 1. This equation has how many solutions? 2. There are 2 solutions. So basically, what you would then do is split it apart, just like we did this, and rewrite it without the absolute value bars. So you're going to rewrite. And so you're going to say, my solutions are x equal 3, and what's the other one? X equal -3. Those are your solutions. All right. Now let's kind of take this right here and go back to this number line, because for some of you may want to do it with this one as well. So if I look at this number line again, here's 0, and I want the distance from 0 to be what number? 3. So I'm going to go 3 units this way, and then what? 3 units that way. So when I go 3 units this way, what's my solution? 3. When I go 3 units this way, I get -3. So these are your solutions, right? And this part right here is this. All right, now let's go ahead and solve this one. So here, I want to solve this absolute value equation. I know that I'm going to have to rewrite, right? You're going to rewrite into how many equations? 2. So you're going to rewrite. Now when you rewrite it, let's think about this number line again. So in your mind, here's 0, right? And you want like we did here. So when we had this, we said we want the distance from, you want this distance right here, this distance from 0 to be how many units? 3. So I want this distance right here to be how many units? 2. Okay, I want that to be 2 units. So when I did this, I went 2 units this way and then what? 2 units that way. So when I do this one, I'm going to go 2 units this way, which gives me what? 2. And I'm going to go 2 units that way, which is going to give me negative 2. All right, so I know I'm going to have a 2 and a negative 2 in my equation. So that means that this right here, x plus 8, has to equal what? So this right here, now remember, be careful, these are my solutions here. These are not your solutions, right? Okay, so, but I need x plus 8 to equal 2 things. Equal a what? A 2 and a what? Negative 2. So that's what that comes in. So you're going to rewrite. Always make sure you remember this. You rewrite. You write the original problem and you rewrite into 2 equations without absolute value bars. And all you're doing, notice these stayed the same, but these were what? Opposites. So 2. Take out the number line. You're going to go 2 units this way and then 2 units that way. So hence 2 and what? Negative 2. And then all you do is solve for x. So how do you get x by itself here? So what's one of my solutions? Okay, subtract 8 here. What's the other solution? Negative 6. And check it. Always check. You don't have to, but check. Go back to the original. What's negative 10 plus 8? Negative 2. What's the absolute value of negative 2? Positive 2. Let's do negative 6. What's the absolute value? What's 6 plus 8? Negative 6 plus 8. 2. What's the absolute value of 2? 2. So are these correct? Yes. So those are correct. All right, let's look at another one. So let's write this as number 1. All right, number 2.
This is just called finding the absolute value.
Solving absolute value equations. All right, suppose I had the absolute value of 3x minus 5 is equal to, let's say, 6. 3x minus 5 is equal to 6. The absolute value of 3x minus 5 equals 6. Now, mathematically, this is what you got to write. So mathematically, you're going to rewrite this without the absolute value bars. And how many equations are you going to write? 2. Because in your mind, remember, this says absolute value. So you can go 6 units to the right and then 6 units to the left. Okay? 6 unit right, 6 unit left. So you're going to rewrite. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to say 3x minus 5 equals negative 6. And then 3x minus 5 equals a positive 6. All right? So notice your left sides are the same. Your right sides are opposites. And then all you do is solve these 2 linear equations. They're going to be linear equations. I'm not going to give you a quadratic equation to deal with. They're going to be linear, so those are easy kinds. So how do you get x by itself here? At 5. So I get 3x equals a negative 1, so what's x? Negative a third. So that's one of your solutions. Over here, add 5 to both sides. I get 3x equals 11, so what's x? 11 thirds. So those are your 2 solutions. So negative 1 third and 11 thirds. And you can check if you want to. Let's check the negative 1 third. Let's actually, now that one, actually write it out because it has a fraction in it. So let's check negative 1 third. So go back to the original. The original was this, right? The absolute value of 3x minus 5 equals 6. So in place of x, what are you going to plug in? Negative 1 third. So I'm checking x equals negative 1 third. So make sure you write the absolute value bars. The absolute value of 3 times negative 1 third, whatever that is, you're going to subtract 5. Then you're going to take the absolute value of this whole thing, and you want to see that equals what? 6. That's what you want to see. Well, what is 3 times a negative 1 third? Negative 1. Good. What's the absolute value of negative 1 and a negative 5? And what's the absolute value of a negative 6? Positive 6. That's what you wanted. Okay? The absolute value of that's absolute value bars. So the absolute value of a negative 6 is a what? Positive 6. Okay? All right, number 3. Suppose you had this. Suppose you had 6x plus 2 minus 3 equal 4. The absolute value of 6x plus 2 and then minus 3 equals a 4. All right, now be a little bit careful what you want to, before you rewrite it, you want to get the absolute value bars by itself. So what do I need to do first? Add 3 to both sides. So you got to do that first. So then you get the absolute value of 6x plus 2 equals a 7. Right? Now you're going to do what? Rewrite. So you're going to do 7 to the right and then 7 to the left. So you're going to say 6x plus 2 equals a 7, and then 6x plus 2 equals a negative 7. Or you can set 6x plus equals negative 7. Doesn't matter, because those are the same, whether you do this one first or that one first, does not matter. All right, so notice mathematically what you got to do. So you're gonna get the absolute value by itself, then you're gonna rewrite without the absolute value bars. Notice without the absolute value bars. All right, what's the next step? Subtract 2 from both equations. So here 6x equals a
Negative 9.
okay, one's negative 9. That's correct, and the other one is a 5.
Positive 5.
So 6x equals a 5 and 6x equals a negative 9. So what's x over here?
Negative 96. I'm back for a second.
No, it's all right. Negative 9, 6, which reduced is negative 3 halves. And the other one's a positive 5, 6. All right. So let's check negative 3 halves. Let's check negative 3 halves. Negative 3 halves. Or you could have just left it as negative 9, 6. Didn't matter. All right, go back to the original. Always the original. So that was absolute value of 6x plus 2 minus 3 equal 4. And the reason why you want to go back to the original is because you could have easily made a mistake somewhere in the process. So always go back to the original. All right, I'm gonna just use negative 3 halves. So I need to check and see if 6 times a negative 3 halves plus 2 and then minus 3, and I want to see if that's going to equal 4. What's 6 times a negative 3 halves?
Negative 18.
Yeah, I guess we should have just stuck with negative 9, 6, right? Because if I had kept it with negative 9, 6, it would have been a lot easier. Now you said negative 18 divided by 2, which is what?
Negative 9.
Negative 9. So if I would have kept it as negative 9, 6, do y'all see that the 6 is divided out, you're left with negative 9? And what's negative 9 plus 2? Negative 7. And then what's the absolute value of negative 7?
7.
And is 7 subtract 3, 4? Is 7 subtract 3, 4? Yes. So y'all agree that absolute value of negative 7 is 7? Okay. All right. Okay, so now you know that if the absolute value is not by itself, the expression not by itself, you get it by itself. All right, let's do number 4. Number 4. Suppose we had 2 times the absolute value of 3x minus 4 equals 10. 2 times the absolute value of 3x minus 4 equal 10. Now, be a little bit careful. Don't distribute, because distributive property doesn't always work with absolute value bars depending on what this number is on the outside. So don't say the absolute value of 6x minus 8. Now, it will work here. But depending on if this is negative or not, it won't always work. See, if this was negative 2, you don't want to distribute. Okay? A positive 2, if you distribute, it'll be fine. But a negative 2 won't. So what I would say then is just don't distribute at all. Because if you distribute here, then you may distribute if it's negative. The negative won't work. It won't give you your correct solutions. And I'll show you. I'll do both. So we're gonna do this several ways. We're gonna do this right here just like we did this one. So when I did this one, what did we say we had to do? Get the absolute value expression by itself. So here it's not quite by itself. What's in front? Positive 2. So you see the multiplication, right? 2 times. What's the opposite multiplication? Division. So divide both sides by 2. Okay? And so these two divide out. So you get the absolute value of 3x minus 4 equals what? 5. All right, so that's where you're at. That's the first thing you have to do is get the absolute value expression by itself. Now you're going to do what? Rewrite into 2 equations without the absolute value bars. So what's the first one? Okay, equal negative 5, and the other one will be a positive 5, right? All right. Okay, so you add 4 to both sides in both cases. So one's a positive 5, one's a negative 5. So you get 3x in one case is 9, and 3x in the other one is a negative 1? Yes? Okay. So when I divide both sides by 3 here, one of my solutions is a positive 3, correct?
Yes.
And the other one is a negative 1/3. All right. Now let's check that one. Let's check both of them this time. Just to, you go back to the original. So let's check 3. Go back to the original. So wherever I see the variable x, I'll plug in 3. So I get 2 times the absolute value of 3 times 3 minus 4. And I want to see if that's going to equal 10. What's 3 times 3? 9 minus 4? 5. All right, so this is what I have. I have 2 times the absolute value of 5, right? What's the absolute value of 5?
5.
So that's 2 times 5, which is 10. All right, let's check x equal negative 1/3. So if I check x equal negative 1/3, I get 2 times. I want to see if 2 times the absolute value of 3x minus 4 is going to equal 10. So you get 2 times 3 times a negative 1/3, right?
Yes.
Minus 4. What's 3 times a negative 1/3? Negative 1. So I get 2 times the absolute value of negative 1 and a negative 4. What's negative 1 and negative 4?
Negative 5.
So I get 2 times the absolute value of negative 5, but what's the absolute value of negative 5? So 2 times 5 is 10. Okay? Now, some students, some of you, are going to think of parentheses, and now these are not parentheses. These are, it's a function here. This is an absolute value function. So these absolute value bars are function ideas, they're not parentheses. But if you did distribute, this would become absolute value of 6x minus 8, right? You all agree?
Yes.
All right, let's rewrite it. So 6x minus 8 equal 10. 6x minus 8 equals a negative 10. All right, add 8 to both sides. I get 6x equal 18. What's x? 3. All right, that was one of our solutions. Over here, add 8 to both sides. I get 6x equals a negative 2. So x is negative 2/3. I'm sorry, negative 2/6, right?
Yes.
Which is negative 1/3. So distributing here did not hurt you. Now let's look at this example. What if I had this? What if I had negative 2 times 3x minus 4 equals negative 10? Negative 2 times 3x minus 4 equals negative 10. Technically, mathematically, what you need to do first is isolate the absolute value bars. So what would I do to divide both sides by negative 2? Okay, and so these negative 2's divide out, and I'm left with the absolute value of 3x minus 4 equals a positive 5. And then that then becomes what we had here. Okay? So my solutions is the same one we had a while ago, right? So my solutions would be x equal 3 and x equal negative 1/3. All right. And you can check it. Let's just check the 3 just to show you. So if I check x equal 3, I get negative 2 times the absolute value of 3x minus 4. I want to see that's going to equal negative 10, right? What's 3 times 3?
9.
Okay, so that becomes negative 2 times 9 minus 4, correct? What's 9 minus 4? So that's negative 2 times the absolute value of 5. What's the absolute value of 5?
5.
And negative 2 times 5 is what?
10.
Negative 10. Now, let's make the mistake and let's distribute the negative 2 like you would think you would do if these were parentheses. And see if we get the same thing this time. So in this problem we did, right? When I went back and I distributed, we did. Oops. Right here. We did, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's do that same problem, but this time let's distribute the negative 2. See if we get the same answer. So here's what you would say. You would say, all right, then you would say, well, that's going to be the absolute value of negative 6x plus 4. I'm sorry, plus 8.
Yes.
Okay, equal negative 10. That still stays negative 10. Because you just distribute the negative 2.
Mm-hmm.
If you rewrite it, you get negative 6x plus 8 equals two things. A negative 10 and what's the other one? Positive 10. Now, I didn't mention this, but we're going to come back and cognitively, mathematically, something's wrong to begin with. All right, but we'll come back to that. But this is what you would probably do. You would subtract 8 from both sides, and you'd say negative 6x equals negative 18, right?
Yes.
So divide both sides by negative 6.
Yes.
I get x to be 3. So it seems like there's no issue here. But there was an issue to begin with. We'll come back to it. So I got 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
And 3 was one of the solutions. Over here, subtract 8. Subtract 8. I get negative 6x equals 2. Divide both sides by negative 6. I get x to be a negative 2/6, which is negative 1/3.
Yes.
So I got that one as well.
Yes.
But I want to go back to this. When you distributed, you got this right here. The absolute value of a number must always be what? Positive. So if you check this, if I check this, into this right here, I'm going back to this because that's where we're mathematically incorrect. What's negative 6 times 3? What's negative 18 plus 8? What's the absolute value of negative 10?
Positive 10.
But that's a negative 10. All right. So you need to be careful. You distribute the negative in here, but then you made something mathematically that's not correct. You're going to, looks like, get the same solutions, but you're getting the solution for the wrong reason. Okay, you're getting the solution for the wrong reason. This The absolute value of a number must always be what? Positive. All right, so don't do this part. What I would do is anytime you have an absolute value bar and there's a number in front, whether it's positive or negative, automatically do what? Get the absolute value by itself. Okay, that's what I would do. All right, let's do one more. And here's what I want to look at. And I think we'll be done with this part.
Did you say this was section 1.6?
What was that?
Did you say this was section 1.6?
Yes, this is 1.6. Okay, I think this is number 6, maybe number 5. All right, again, I'm making this up, so it's not always a good idea, but you should be okay. All right, absolute value of 3 minus 2x plus 6 equal 8 was the first step.
Subtract 6.
Yes, so always you have to get the absolute value expression by itself before you rewrite. Get the absolute value by itself before you rewrite. Always remember that. So I got to subtract 6 from both sides. That's what you got to do first. So then I get the absolute value of 3 minus 2x equals a what? 2. Now you rewrite. So 3 minus 2x must equal 2 things. What 2 things? And a negative. Over here, how to get x by itself? Subtract 3. So I get a negative 2x equals a negative 1? Is that correct?
Yep.
And then divide by negative 2, you'll get a positive 1/2? Okay. Over here, subtract 3. I get negative 2x equals a negative 5, right? Divide both sides by negative 2. I get x to be a positive 5/2. So those are your solutions. So my 2 solutions are 1/2 and 5/2. Okay? So when you look at the worksheet with this, and it's just 4 problems, just like we just did, y'all can do this one, right? Here, what do you have to do first? Add 2 to both sides. Here, what should you do first? Divide by 3 first. And here, subtract 5 from both sides first. Okay, there's only 4. It'll be due not next week, but the week after. So 2 weeks from today. All right. Now, one thing I got to ask you, and there's once in a while on the final they'll have an absolute value equation, not always, but it'll look more like what we just did. But just out of curiosity, what do you think x plus 5 equal negative 3 is? What do you think the solutions is? The absolute value of x plus 5 equal negative 3. Negative 8? All right, he says negative 8. Let's check it, okay? What is negative 8 plus 5? Negative 3. What's the absolute value of negative 3? Is that what I wanted? No. So x equal negative 8 does not work. Yeah, so this has no solutions. Because we said the absolute value of a number must always be what? Positive. The absolute value of a number is what here? Negative. So that has no solutions. Now the ones on the worksheet, the ones in my math lab, these numbers on the other side will always be what? Positive. But maybe on another test in the future, in another course, or if you go into grad school or something, I don't know. I'm just making things up. The absolute value of a number, they could have a negative number here. Just remember that's no solution because the absolute value of a number must always be positive. Okay? All right. So that takes care of that. Let me give you that worksheet.